Shotgun to shotgun.
Greetings, family. My name is Brother Sutek Ra, and I can't express how honored I am to be participating in this monumental event. I want to thank the brothers for putting this together, and I want to congratulate all the participants for getting involved and sacrificing their time to try to make this a success. I said try to make it a success because whether or not this event is a success is up to you. Success is not going to be measured by how many people watch this. Success is not going to be measured by how much money is generated. Success is going to be determined by what you do tomorrow, the day after, and the day after, and so on. It's going to be determined by the follow-up from this event. What type of follow-up do we get from this event? That's going to determine whether this event is going to be a success or not. Now, some of it can be optimistic and some of it can be pessimistic. I want to be optimistic and say that, you know, the next 100 years, we're going to get the next 100 years right. I don't think we did a good job in the last 100 years, but hopefully, you know, after this event and as we keep going, as the brothers who spoke here, the sisters who spoke here, and others keep hammering this message home, that we can make the next 100-year celebration, which many of us probably won't be there, to be a much better success. It's been 100 years. And what have we done with what Garvey left us? What have we done with what Dr. Amos Wilson left us, who was inspired by Marcus Garvey? I see on social media a lot of people talking about Obama didn't do anything for Black people. Well, if he did do something for Black people, ask yourself, based on what we did with Garvey's work, what we did with Amos Wilson's work, what would we have done with anything that Obama might have done? It's almost like we're waiting for somebody to do something for us. It's almost like, you know, we're looking for some Black celebrity to come with a master plan for us, to tell us what we need to do and how we need to do it. And I'm here to say that's not going to happen. And if it does happen, I'm here to say, don't trust it. Nick Cannon is the latest Black celebrity to try to speak truth to power, his power, and get shut down by his owners. The situation we find ourselves in this country, and when I'm speaking to Blacks in America. That's my focus, to try to get us, Blacks in America, on the right path, to try to get this dirt road we on turned into a paved road so that our journey can be a lot smoother. That's my focus. And then after we concentrate on us, then we can help other Blacks in the diaspora, because it's my opinion and my belief that other Blacks in the diaspora are looking to us to right this ship, to put us on this paved road, to put us back in contention. And I think the Blacks in America are in the best position to do that. But this has to be fixed by us. No one is coming to help us. And quite truthfully, no one wants to help us. Dr. Clark said, the Black man has no friends. Everybody wants to see him on the bottom. So are you ready to take responsibility into making this event a success? Are you ready to take responsibility for creating a better future for generations to come? Are you ready to be listed as a hero in Black history? Because the pattern is repeating itself right now. Civil rights movement, Black people went out, marched, protested, fire hoses turned on them, dogs sicked on them, getting locked up, going to jail. And the result was it went from a Black movement to a minority movement, and then white women and gays and immigrants from other countries classified as minorities, and they turned around and got all the benefits from our hard work, and we still in the same position we was back in the 50s and the 60s. That pattern is repeating itself right now. We're out protesting police brutality, protesting income disparity, protesting this and that, and you have another community that has now jumped out front, usurped us, and making this agenda. They will make this agenda about them. You know the alphabet community I'm talking about. So if we don't get out front, if we don't take responsibility, we'll be talking about these same issues in the next 100 years. I don't know who else is going to be speaking about economic empowerment. The title of my presentation today, what I want to talk about, when the brother Bumani asked me would I participate, I was, like I said, I was honored to be asked to participate here today. And he asked me to, he needed a title for my presentation. I was telling the brother earlier that I haven't spoken publicly in about 6 years. So, you know, work with me a little bit here. But on my laptop, I have about 7 or 8 presentations on economic empowerment that I've written out and just never delivered them because it gets discouraging when you see people's focus and what they focus on, and you believe that this is the main piece. I don't know who else is going to be speaking about economic empowerment, but everything else you hear this weekend comes second to this one piece. The title that I gave the brother is Black Economic Empowerment, Fool's Gold or a Fool's Goal. And I'll break that down for you as we move through the presentation. But Nick Cannon, he's a perfect example of the fool's gold, okay, in terms of Black economic empowerment. Like I said, I don't know who else is going to be speaking about economic empowerment, but everything else comes second to this piece. The economic empowerment piece is the horse that pulls the wagon. None of that other stuff happens unless this happens. If we don't get this part here right, none of that other stuff will be able to reach its full potential. And that other stuff is very, very important. We have presentations from Marcus Klein with the education. Very, very important. We have presentation from Sister Yabarudi. Very, very important. Those were the ones I was able to catch. And I know that if we don't get the economic empowerment part, those parts don't happen to the best of their ability, if at all. This event is only a success if we Marcus Garvey's work. You know, it's one thing to celebrate him, but the highest tribute we can pay to Marcus Garvey is to continue his work. That's the highest tribute we can pay the man, to take his work and keep it going, evolve it. We have to stop waiting for other people to do something for us. Stop waiting for white supremacy to dumb themselves down. By asking white people to stop white supremacy is asking them to dumb themselves down. No, no, no. We need to smarten up. Don't ask white folks to dumb down. We need to smarten up. So, who's ready to step up and assume their responsibility to the Black race? That's what you have to ask yourself. Are you ready to assume your responsibility to the Black race? Hold up a second. I might be speeding. I might be moving too fast. Do you think you have a responsibility to the Black race? Maybe I need to ask that question first. Who feels they have a responsibility to the race? Not just to yourself, not just to your family, but to the race. There were two types of Blacks that lived on the plantation. There were those that said, what can be better than this? And then there were those that said, I want better than this. Which one would you be? What is the average Black person to the Black race? And the reason I'm going through this is because with something as fundamental as economic empowerment, we seem not to have found our way to it. It seems like we're afraid of it. And I'll get into that a little bit later. But you have to ask these questions to get answers so that you can move forward, so that things can be clear to you as to what you're doing and why you're doing it. So, you know, does the average Black person have a responsibility to the Black race? Do we have a responsibility to our ancestors? Do we have a responsibility to Marcus Garvey? Do we have a responsibility to Amos Wilson? These people sacrificed for us. Marcus Garvey sacrificed for us. What are we doing? How are we honoring his sacrifice? Do we have a responsibility to the next generation? The brother said he has a 15-year-old son with him watching this right now. Do the rest of us have a responsibility to his son? If we start thinking like that, if we start thinking race first, we'll be first in the race. Do we have a responsibility not to be exploited by other ethnic groups? Well, in my opinion, if you feel like you don't have a responsibility to the race, then you're an enemy to the race. Along with that, if you believe you have a responsibility to the race and don't take your responsibility seriously, then in my opinion, you're an enemy to the race. It's people that think they have no responsibility to the race that has cost us the last 100 years. And when you sit back and you think 100 years? Let that sink in for a minute. It's been 100 years. And when you juxtapose that to the progress that we made, you have to sit back and say, what the hell was we doing? What have we been doing for 100 years? That's damn near 2 lifetimes. The good news is those that accept their responsibility today will make a difference for the next 100 years. So the pressure is on. The pressure is on me because I'm critical of the economic empowerment platforms and strategies that people are putting out there. So the pressure is on me to give you what I believe to be a better solution to economic empowerment and to maybe explain it to you in a way that makes you say, damn, what the hell was I doing? Yeah, I need to get on this. The pressure's on me to motivate you so that you can motivate the next person. And so on and so on. And that's how this thing builds. Because like I said, this event is not going to be measured by how many people see us today, how many people see us tomorrow. It's what we do. Not what we do, not what we say, but what we do tomorrow, the next day, the day after that. So, like I said, the pressure's on us. I have to give you a viable strategy to follow, and you have to follow it. But I'm going to tell you, your part is really the easiest part. The strategy is the easiest part. I'm going to make it so easy. And you're going to say, damn, why haven't we been doing this for 100 years? When you hear the strategy and you say, damn, what if we've been doing this for 100 years? Then that may make you motivated for the next 100. I'm hoping. Your part only takes 3 things. The part that you have to do takes 3 things to do. You have to sacrifice, you have to issues. One of our issues is that
all right, we lost Brother Sutek. I don't know what happened. I'm gonna unmute you again.
I'm here. Can y'all hear me?
All right, we got you back.
Okay, good. Okay. So I was saying your part, my part as well, but our part on the do side only takes 3 things. You have to sacrifice, commit, and be willing to be held accountable. The accountability part, if we hold each other accountable, then it'll be easy for us to commit and easy for us to sacrifice because we'll be putting pressure on each other. Dr. Claude Anderson calls it, I'm trying to think of the exact word. Oh, inappropriate behavior. When we see each other involved in inappropriate behavior, we won't just sit back and let it ride. We'll say, hey, yo, dude, yo, sis, We don't do that. You know, this is what we have to do. We got to stop that type of behavior. So that and that should be easy for us if we recognize what it is we're trying to accomplish. And what we're trying to accomplish is economic empowerment, because that will be the foundation that everything else we try to do will be built on. If our economic foundation is shaky, which it is, everything else we try to build on it will crumble. And I can give you several examples of economic endeavors that we have tried in the past that have crumbled, and other people with stronger economic foundation came in, took it, and is profiting with it. Stuff that we started, stuff that we invented, things that we were doing, they came in, stronger economic background, stronger economic base, and taking over our energies, taking over our inventions, and profiting from it. If you say you're down with Black Power, then you have a responsibility to the race. We have to think race first. We have to have racial pride. Like I said, the strategy is the easy part. It's the revolutionary changing of our way of thinking that's going to be the hard part, because we have to recognize the forces. Look, we're not economically deficient because we just want to be economically deficient. We're economically deficient because that is the plan of the people who are economically efficient. I'll get into this a little later, but we exist in a capitalistic system. A lot of people are hard on capitalism, down on capitalism. They say it's a slave system and it's evil and it's that. Capitalism is just a system. It's the people that you put in place in those systems are all those adjectives. It's not the system. There's a way for us to manipulate this system so that we can be prosperous. And we'll get into that a little bit later. I feel the hard part of anybody's economic empowerment presentation is convincing our people how important it is. I truly believe that the conscious among us understand how important economic empowerment is. And the reason why we haven't embraced it and mastered it is because either one, we just don't know what to do, and two, we're just afraid to do it. I believe fear has crippled us. So we just fall back into what's bearable, not even comfortable, but what's bearable, what we can bear. Yeah, we can bear being late on our light bill every once in a while. Yeah, we can bear being late on our rent every once in a while. Yeah, we can bear, maybe going a day or two without eating, or, we can bear having an old model car, or, I can bear having to just doing without. We can bear that. And I think that's what we fall back into so as not to have to take responsibility. And those are not conscious among us, they think everything is just fine. They think this is how it's supposed to be. They think, this is the world we live in. What can be better than this? But I think the conscious among us, we know there's better than this. And either we don't know what to do, or we know what to do and just afraid to do it. But let's take a little walk in history for a second. One step out of slavery, one step, Black people knew they had to control their own economics. One step out. 1865, Emancipation Proclamation, First Amendment, freed the slaves. We were building our own towns. We were building our own communities. We left that plantation, some of us, some of them stayed. Those are the ones who were saying, what could be better than this? The ones who said, I want better than this, they left that plantation. They went out and built their own towns. Contrary to public opinion, Tulsa, Oklahoma wasn't the first Black Wall Street. Durham, North Carolina was considered the first Black Wall Street. Kentucky had over 50 Black towns alone. And there was multiple other ones over the South and Midwest. So one step out of slavery, Black people knew we have to control our own economics. The white man ain't gonna do for us. You dig it? The slave was forced to fend for himself. And to the surprise of the former slave master, he did a lot better than they thought we would. They didn't think we would be able to handle it. They thought we'd come running back to the plantation. Nah. Black people did what they had to do, built their towns, built their economies, and they were starting to thrive and prosper. I don't know if I told you this, if I said this already, but with the backdrop, capitalism is a competition, okay? The capitalist system is based on competition because the theory is if you make it competitive, the people will get the best service. Because you have people competing against each other to provide similar services, and the best product, the best service will rise to the top. The best price, the best quality, that will rise to the top, and the people will have a choice. And the goal, when they saw that we was doing a lot better than they thought we would do, the goal from that point on by larger society was to kill our competition. Kill off the competition, stop us from competing. Because with as many Black people that was in this country at the time, 1865, 1870, 1880, 1900, 1920s, with as many Black people that was in this country, if we continued on the trajectory that we were going on economically, remember, in the 1920s and 1930s, there was over 400 Black-owned banks in this country. Our money circulated within our communities. You understand? With that type of trajectory, and as we learned more about economics and more about finance, now we become international. Now, and as the world was getting smaller, now we have economic power. People didn't want that to happen. So what did they do? They went about their way to destroy Black-owned economies. We had a Black owned and operated sports leagues. They wiped those out. We had Black owned movie production companies. They wiped those out. Now, I remember when the Black Panther movie came out, everybody was all hyped up about all Black cast, all Black this, all Black that, but it was all white dollars. Back in the 1910s and 20s and 30s, you had all Black movie production companies, all Black casts, and all Black dollars. They killed that. Killed the competition. Defeat the competition. We have Black insurance companies, Black banks, Black record labels. You know, I could go into more of how they carried out their plan to destroy those industries that we were in, but just know that the destruction of those industries was a planned strategy to get control of the Black dollar. They did not want you to have control of your dollar. That whole integration movement, in my opinion, and in the opinion of a lot of other people, was not so much to integrate you into society, but to integrate your dollars, to mix your dollars with their dollars, to get control of your dollars. The goal of Black economic empowerment is to regain control of the Black dollar. That integration movement of the 50s and 60s, that's the point when Black people stopped doing for self. Because prior to integration, we had to do for self. We had to have our own, we couldn't go to school with them. Well, I hate to say go to school with them. They couldn't go to school with us. You know, the way you phrase things and you say it reinforces certain things. So you got to be careful how you say it. And I try not to say certain phrases because it even though I'm against them, it reinforces. Like if you keep saying white supremacy, even though you're against it and you don't believe it, the more you say it, the more you reinforce it. So they couldn't go to school with us. We had our own schools. With that whole integration movement, they tricked us into fighting a fight that would ultimately return us to slavery, a new type of slavery, an economic slavery. When you don't control your dollars in a capitalist economic system, you become a slave to those that do. I'll say that again. When you don't control your dollars in a capitalist economic system, you become a slave to those that do control your dollars. That's why I said earlier, if we don't get this component right, if we don't get this economic empowerment component under control, everything else is just a dream. Nothing moves without the money. And you know it like I know it. You know, we got 8 people in the room here, and I know you see it. You see how when you start talking about money around Black folks, everybody leans back and they listening, but they trying to figure out how to get out of the room, how to get out of the conversation, because they think you're trying to take something from them. You know, they hear a swindle coming, and that's planned. That's that's why other ethnic groups control Black music, which is a billion-dollar industry. That's why other ethnic groups control Black athletics. That's a billion-dollar industry. They control where and how your money is invested by the banking system. That's why our greatest minds work for our competition. I don't like to use the word when I talk about Caucasians as the enemy or as the oppressor. I don't want to give them that status, because giving them that status makes me respond to them in that way. My enemy, okay, I'm gonna respond to you as my enemy. How do I fight you as my enemy? I don't think I have the tools to fight you with, so therefore I accept defeat. And that's where we at. If I look at you as, okay, you're my oppressor, boom, now I'm putting you up higher than I am. Nah, I don't want to do that. I'm psychologically brainwashing myself when I use those terms. So knowing that capitalism is based on competition, and every ethnic group comes to this country to compete, then I look at them as my competition. And as my competition, now I have a better frame of mind that I got to compete with you to win, that I can compete and win. I'm the underdog, but I've seen the underdog compete and win before. And I know that's possible for me. So I don't like to use the term, enemy, oppressor, anything. I don't like to use that when I'm talking about Caucasians or any of the other ethnic groups. We need to regain control of the Black dollar. And that's the objective of what I want to talk about today. But before we talk about that, we have to lay the groundwork, because my mother used to always tell me, a fool and his money is soon parted. And if we don't get that foolishness out of our heads, no matter what type of strategy I present to you today for economic empowerment, if we don't get our minds right, it'll be the fool's goal. That part is the fool's goal of the presentation. The weapons, I want to discuss the weapons that are being used against us in our quest for economic empowerment, which would lead us to liberation and self-determination. That's the goal, liberation and self-determination. But if you don't control your economics, you can't be liberated in a capitalist economic system, and you can't determine your future. All of that will be determined for you. We have to understand the weapons that are being used against us, because it's like a magic trick. Once you understand how the musician does the trick, he can no longer fool you with it, right? If you know that he's doing this over here, but he's got something going on over here, you know not to look up here when he does that. You know to look over there once you understand how the trick is done. And he uses the same tricks over and over on us, but we've never learned how the trick is done, so we keep falling for it. Trick number one is distrust. I'm gonna ask you a question. Whose quote is this? I shall assure you that distrust is stronger than trust, and envy is stronger than adulation, respect, and admiration. It is necessary that our slaves depend on us. They must love, respect, and trust only us. This is necessary for good and long-lasting economics. Where's that quote from? Does anybody know?
Is that Willie Lynch?
That's Willie Lynch, baby. That's Willie Lynch.
I also wanted to add to David Banner uses instead of saying white supremacy, he uses white inferiority.
Okay, that sounds good too. That sounds good. Anything not to give it power. You understand? Because when we use certain words, we reinforce it psychologically without even knowing it. I mean, I'm not the spooky type of guy. I don't really go for the spooky aspects of things, but I heard a brother say one day, words, you spell words, and they put you, I forget exactly how he said it, but he's saying you spell words and they can put you under spell, and words do. You can put people under the spell with words and get them to, pick up a gun and travel thousands of miles away and go kill somebody because of some patriotic words that they gave you. So we have to be very, very careful about the words we use and how we describe things, So this book here, I'm gonna tell you something. I have several books here that I just wanna, show you that I'm gonna get to a little bit later. Not to read them or quote from them, but just to show you type of things I'm reading and how they influence me. But this little book here, this pamphlet, it's probably about 30 pages, and it's probably really only about 15 pages in here that really make a difference. Describes everything we're going through as Black people in this country. It breaks down everything that we're going through as, this is the why. The stuff we're going through in this country with Caucasians, with each other, is all explained why right here. And once you know the why, then you can figure out a solution to it. This quote was credited in 1712 when Blacks needed to be controlled physically. Once you were broken spiritually, and as conditions changed, now the goal is to control you economically. They removed the shackles from your legs and arms, but left them on your brain. Using the same principles of distrust, they can now control you economically because you're convinced you can't do it by yourself. Black people have been convinced that they cannot win against this Caucasian economically. We've been convinced of that. We won't even try. Marcus Garvey, his focus was Black economic empowerment. That was his major focus. And he was successful. That's why he was a threat. That's why he had to be eliminated. That's why his reputation had to be destroyed. Now, I go way back. I know I look good for my age and all of that, but I go way back. And a lot of people I talk to who just are familiar with Garvey, they don't know what the damage to his reputation and what was the perception of him by Black people, say, in the 50s and 60s and 70s. He was considered to be a swindler. He was considered to be a thief. The majority population painted him as untrustworthy. You understand what I'm saying? And, you know, he was accused of stealing money. He was paraded before the people, discredited, and deported. Never to be heard from again. He was portrayed in the movie Cotton Comes to Harlem. I don't know how many of you seen the movie Cotton Comes to Harlem, but there was a Garvey-esque character in Cotton Comes to Harlem. And his name was Deke O'Malley, and he was a swindler. And there was a lot of parallels between that character and Marcus Garvey. See how they use entertainment to destroy character, to set stereotypes in our mind on areas that are important to them. It's important to them that what? It is necessary that our slaves depend on us. They must love, respect, and trust only us. That's their goal. That's the goal from day one. From the first time the Africans stepped off the good ship Jesus, their goal was to make sure that they depend on us, they love and respect and trust only us. I remember years ago, there was an episode in Sanford and Son, and Fred had to go to the dentist. And the dentist comes in, and it's a Black dentist. See, I say these type of things because a lot of attitudes has changed nowadays, but like 50s and 60s, you still see remnants of that Willie Lynch mentality. Oh, you still see a lot of remnants of that Willie Lynch mentality today, but they was really strong in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. When the Black dentist came into the office to see about Fred, he was like, oh, I want a white dentist. I want a white dentist. Like, people looked at that as just comedy. And when I saw it for the first time, I was young, I looked at it as comedy because in my mind, well, I think I might have been about 13, 14. In my mind, yeah, you don't want no Black dentist. I want a white dentist. And when the white dentist came in, he was all bumbling and stumbling and everything. And Fred wound up being serviced by the Black dentist. But I say that to say, that's the attitude that Black people had when getting services. And it relates right back to that passage from the Let's Make a Slave. They have to depend on us, to love, respect, and trust only us. And that mentality is pervasive nowadays in our community. We're slowly but surely getting out of it. You know, we want to send our kids to Black schools. We want Black teachers. When we go to a business, there's Black people in there. You know, we're coming out of that. But we have to hammer that home. We have to hammer that home. Marcus Garvey was about group economics. That was his focus. Amos Wilson was about group economics. There's a brother by the name of James Klingman in Ohio. He's a professor out in Ohio. I want to say the University of Ohio, economics professor. He understands the importance of group economics. Dr. Claude Anderson is about group economics. What is group economics? A group of people that have shared economic goals to organize and achieve those goals. The key word in that definition is organize. We have to organize. In my opinion, the organizations that we need to have need to take the form of the corporate structure. They can't be that one man at the top and everybody else is, just supporters. You need to have that corporate structure so that, like Dr. Clark said, you can bury the man and continue the plan. When Malcolm X was assassinated, his organization fell. When Marcus Garvey was taken out of the picture, his organization dwindled. It stayed for a while because he had people behind him, but it dwindled. Elijah Muhammad died, his organization fell apart. Steve Jobs died, they put out a new iPhone the next week. You understand what I'm saying? So in order for our movements not to fall apart when adversity comes, I feel, this is my opinion as a business-minded person, our movements have to take the formation of a corporate structure where you have a head, people around him to advise him, somebody to come up under him, much like the government. They shot Kennedy at 10 in the morning. They had a new president at 11:45 that same day. And the ship just kept on rolling. When things happen like that with our movements, we stumble and fall. And here we are 100 years later, trying to pick up the pieces of where Garvey left off. Here we are 40 years later, trying to pick up the pieces where Amos Wilson left off. We can't afford that type of stoppage in business. The problem is with group economics, no one is given a step-by-step detailed plan on how to achieve it until now. This is what we're going to do today. Now, let me say this. Black people, we do practice group economics. We do. We practice group economics. We just do it with the wrong group. When you put your money in the bank, you're practicing group economics. When you buy stocks and bonds, that's group economics. Because what banks do, they take your deposit, put it with other people's deposits, put them together, and then they go invest them. They loan money out. They buy stocks. They buy bonds. They pay you 3% interest on your savings, and they loan the money out at 8%, 9%, 10%. That difference is how they make money. So you're practicing group economics, you're just not getting the benefit because you're with the wrong group. When you spend your money in these other ethnic groups, establishments, you're practicing group economics just with the wrong group. We have to put ourselves in position where we can practice group economics with our group. And that's what we're going to get to today. I hope. 3:12. Okay. I don't know if I could talk for an hour and a half, but so trick number one was distrust. We have to distrust each other. We have to distrust each other, so we only trust them, and then this way they can control our dollars. In 1929, when the stock market crashed, banks went out of business. People lost millions of dollars. People lost their deposits. Whatever you had in the bank, when that bank collapsed, psst, you was out. 1933, the government said, yo, we got to get these banks back on their feet, but we got to make these people feel confident about putting their money back in the bank. Because what happened was when people lost their money, they lost everything. So they created, in 1933, they created this thing called the FDIC. When you walk into a bank now, they got a sticker on the door saying FDIC. That's Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, meaning that you put your money in the bank, your account is insured up to a certain amount of dollars. Today, I think it's 150,000. I'm not sure. It's easy to look up. But they put insurance on your deposit accounts. But guess what? Black banks didn't get that FDIC approval. So Black people wasn't putting their money in Black banks. Like I said, you had over 400 Black-owned banks in this country. Now I think you got 3 or 4. That was the plan. We don't allow the Black banks to be FDIC insured. So Black people didn't trust putting their money in the Black-owned bank. They put it in the white-owned bank. And that's how they get control of your dollar. So that's trick number one, is the distrust. And it's pervasive over many different areas, but those are just some examples. And then you can sit back and ponder and think, you know, where you see that distrust going in other areas. They definitely put distrust between Black men and Black women, but that's another Oprah show. So trick number two, what is trick number two? Trick number two, in my opinion, is getting you to fight the wrong fight. Now, what do I mean by fight the wrong fight? In our quest for economic empowerment, social justice, and self-determination, we have been told the barriers holding us back are, one, the capitalist economic system. Everybody tells you capitalism is evil, it's holding us back, we can't do nothing in capitalism, capitalism is going to keep us slaves and all of that, right? 2 is the system of institutional racism. So 1 is the capitalist economic system, 2 is the system of institutional racism, and 3 is the system of white supremacy. Those are the 3 things that we're being told is holding us back in our quest for economic empowerment, social justice, and self-determination. Now, what do all 3 of these things have in common? They're all systems. Capitalism is an economic system, which is physical. Racism is a policy-driven system. And white supremacy is a psychological system. White supremacy and racism are both components of the capitalist economic system. They trick us into fighting white supremacy and racism, knowing those are fights you can never win as long as you don't concentrate on the number one system, which is the capitalist economic system. If you don't know how the capitalist economic system works, then you will never be able to defeat racism and white supremacy. The only reason we're affected by racism is because we depend on the racist. We depend on them for everything. That's why we complain about racism. You don't see other ethnic groups coming into this country complaining about racism. You got Indians coming from India. I don't hear them complaining about racism. You got Arabs coming from the Middle East. I don't hear them complaining about racism. You got Hispanics coming from South America. I don't really hear them complaining about racism. Because they come here and they set up their economic base, their foundation, and don't depend on them. So they're not affected by it. Where in turn, we depend on them. And that goes back to that quote. It is necessary that our slaves depend on us. They must love and respect and trust only us. This is necessary for good and long-lasting economics. See, like I'm saying, this book here, this little pamphlet, and really just the portion on the making of a slave, because there's two portions here, the Willie Lynch letter, which is revealing, but then the making of a slave just lays out, that's the blueprint. So we're affected by racism because we depend on the racist. Eliminate your dependency on the racist, then racism can't harm you. White supremacy. You don't fight white supremacy. I saw Hillary Clinton giving a speech one day talking about fighting white supremacy. Now, why would a white person want to fight white supremacy? It don't make sense. You don't fight white supremacy, you deprogram the African mind. White supremacy is just a program that's put in your head. You deprogram the African mind. That's the Willie Lynch doctrine that was implanted in our head. A lot of people who know me know I always say, death to the Negro. Well, Willie Lynch made us Negroes. The Negro is an African with a Willie Lynch mentality. And as a result, we accept white supremacy. And like fools, we think we're fighting it. When in reality, the mere mention of it, we're reinforcing it. We have to sacrifice our old Negro mentality for a new African mentality. Emphasis on new. In my opinion, everything, all our African traditions and ways of living and thinking, as we move forward, some are gonna have to evolve. Everything can't be the same. As time moves on, as information is gained, some of our old way of thinking we have to evolve with time as it goes along. Otherwise, if our thinking doesn't evolve, if our thinking doesn't keep pace with the world, with society, then we'll become extinct, just like a lot of the other species. White supremacy, in my opinion, is the white man's attempt at the first law of nature, survival of the species. Dr. Francis Cross Weldon tells us that this Caucasian fears genetic annihilation. He knows that. He knows that he is the recessive gene. He knows his gene is the weak gene. He knows that he could be genetically eliminated from the face of the earth, so he's doing everything he can to survive. This Caucasian, he calculates birth rate, population growth. He already knows that in 50 years, he's not going to be the majority race in this country. And he probably knows in how many years he won't be the majority race on this planet. So they're doing everything they can to survive. The question is, will Black people do everything they need to do to survive, and not only survive, but to win? See, the object is to win. In any economic system, whatever you in, the object is to win, not to look good losing. We've been looking good losing for 300-400 years. The object is to win. That's, when you look around nature, it sounds peaceful. Nature sounds peaceful, but nature is violence. Nature is violent. Out in my yard, I saw a snake snatch up a little baby rabbit. Snatched them up, hauled them off. You see that? You see that throughout nature. So, no, it's a natural reaction that the white man knows his precarious position on this planet for him to try to protect it. I'm not mad at him for thinking he's supreme. I'm not mad at him for doing everything he can do to survive. I'm mad at us for not doing everything we need to do to survive. But I understand why we don't do it is because of the programming that we've been living under for so many years. But now we have brothers like Marcus Klein, M. Wally Mubarudi. We have the Uhuru Academy in Texas. We got the brother Q Butter in Brooklyn, and many more like him around the country that's changing that mentality, that's helping to get rid of that Willie Lynch mentality so that in turn, we will do everything we need to do to win, not just survive. Our true fight is not against racism, is not against white supremacy. Our true fight is with our ignorance as to how capitalism works. Trust me, family, we're not going back to ancient Egypt. We're not going back to ancient Africa. The world is moving in another direction, and we need to catch up. We can take some of our traditions and ideologies, but we also need to adapt to a new environment. If we don't adapt, like I said, we'll become extinct, like many species before us. Perfect example of that is the American Indian right here in this country. He's on his way to extinction. The American Indian is on their way to being extinct. Just a part of history. And if Black people don't talk about them, nobody else talks about them. So they're going to be a forgotten people, say in the next 100 years. We go the next 100 years, American Indian is going to be a folklore. We don't want to go that way. We do not want to go that way. In my opinion, from my training and my background, let me give you a little bit about my background and my training. I have a bachelor's degree in accounting and finance with a minor in economics from Boston College School of Management, which is one of the best business schools in the country. I have over 25 years of upper level management business experience. I was upper management with 2 engineering firms, upper management with 2 record companies, upper management with book publishing companies, Fortune 500 companies. So, you know, I have a broad understanding of business, economics, how it works. And when I make this comment, that's what I'm leaning on. That capital, in our current condition in this country, capitalism is our best opportunity for the come up. You know, for us to increase our status. I believe the capitalist economic system is the best system for us to reach our goal of economic empowerment, social justice, and self-determination. And I say that because as a minority, remember, see, a lot of us, I ain't gonna say a lot of us, but it seems like a lot of people believe that because Black people built this country, helped build this country, had a big stake in building this country, that puts you on the same level as everybody else in this country. It should, but it don't, okay? This country is clearly a white country, and you're a minority in this country. Now, you can't expect to be treated the same as white folks in this country because this is a white country. We're Blacks in a white country. You got Asians in a white country. You got Arabs in a white country. You know what I'm saying? So now, the shame part of it is these other ethnic groups, they come to this country and they do better than us. We've been here since the day one. They Johnny come latelys and they pass us economically like we standing still. You know why? Because we standing still. Like I said, life is a competition. You know, nature is a competition. I was watching this program because I'm getting my garden together and I'm planting trying to plant my own food in my garden. I'm trying to get a hand, get that green thumb. And I was watching this program on TV one day, and the title of the program was The Underground War of Plants. I'm like, wow, the underground war of plants. On the surface, you see this type of plant, that type of plant, all in together on the surface. But underneath, you got this plant is fighting with this plant. These other plants will come together and kill off these plants. You know what I'm saying? That's why I said, nature is violent. It's survival of the fittest. That's why I'm not mad at the Caucasian. I'm mad at us because everything you hear come out of our, let me stop speaking in absolutes. A lot of what you hear coming from us in social media and just conversation is what somebody else isn't doing for us. This person didn't do nothing for us. That person didn't do nothing for us. It's not about that. It's about what you do for yourself. That's what it's about. What am I going to? What time am I going? Am I going to 3:45? Somebody let me know, I forget.
Yes, 3:45.
Oh, wow.
You could, it's about, 12 minutes left, so it's up to you. You could, at this point, maybe open the floor to questions or
Hold on, let me get 3 more minutes because I never gave you the economic strategy. I'm here running my mouth. I didn't give you the economic strategy. Listen, what these other platforms is doing is leading you down a dead end, all right? They're not taking you to economic empowerment. What they're doing is giving you individual wealth, okay? These other economic platforms that's telling you, invest in the stock market, start your own business, buy real estate, this and that. That's good for the individual, but it doesn't move the race forward, all right? Let me play this video and it'll give you an idea of what my company is about. You can go to my website. It's www.ksp4ever.com. Hey, yo, Antoine, come play this video for me. Okay, so, man, I'm running my mouth. I ran out of time, man. I didn't think I could talk for an hour. Play that video. I didn't get to tell them about. See this banner behind me? That's me and my son's podcast. We talk about all of this stuff all the time. We talk about relevant topics. It's right here, right behind there. Right here. Oh, that's it? Okay. This video is about 3 minutes long. Check it out and give you an idea of what we're talking about and the theory.
And this is a chart
about what we're trying to do.
That I think says in another way what he so profoundly provided us today. This chart to me represents beautiful, educated, moneyed Black people all over America. It could represent Black organizations. It could represent Black churches. It could represent Black social and civic organizations. And what you will notice about these beautiful Black people all over America is that everybody is doing their own thing, caught up in a Eurocentric value of rugged individualism, having forgotten that it takes a village to raise a child. There is no power here, brothers and sisters. There is no power here. Power is most effective concentrated. You can take a 55-gallon drum of water, spill it over, it will disperse, find its own level, and eventually evaporate. You can take that same 55-gallon drum of water, put it under pressure, put a lid on it, put a hose in it, put a nozzle on the end of that hose, and it can cut concrete. There is no power with us being disconnected. See, there's nothing wrong with dispersion. I live in Cleveland, you live in Atlanta. We have folk in the Caribbean, we have folk in Africa. That's dispersion. That's okay, but we do not have to be disconnected. We are a disconnected people. We are powerless in disconnection. This is where all the power is. You see? This is where all the power is. Whether you are at the center of your own network or part of someone else's network, this is where the power is. There's a beautiful, beautiful African proverb that says, when spiders unite, they can tie up a lion. When we connect, because we are disconnected, we're disconnected from those of like mind. We're disconnected from the best practices in our community. I don't care what it is that you want to do, what profession you want to engage in, what business you want to get into. I can introduce you to brothers and sisters all over America they are doing it to death. You just don't know who they are. You are disconnected from them. There is no power in disconnection, okay? When we connect, we prevent interlopers from coming into our communities and taking and destroying at will. Hi, George. Try to open up the Booker T. Washington delicatessen in Chinatown and see what happens. So we must connect. We must connect the dots. That must be the movement for our people in the 21st century. We need a lot of us doing a little instead of a few of us doing a lot. We need to get together to get ahead. That is why we must network.
Can y'all hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Still in? Okay, okay, beautiful, beautiful. So that's the theory. You can go to my website. Man, I didn't realize I was talking so long. I was paying attention to the clock, but you can go to the website, ksp4ever.com. Click on the 5KMIC tab. That's 5,000 Conscious Millionaires. And what it is an investment company where, you know, we're trying to get 5,000 members. 5,000 members, we can make a difference. We can set the groundwork for future generations, all right? It's 5,000 Conscious Millionaires Investment Company. And, you know, there's the mission statement on there, tells everything that we need to do. But if anybody got any questions, you know, I'm be glad. What he wants to do is, like I said, 5,000 Conscious Millionaires. But it's also investment capital for starting businesses. And every business we start, you become a shareholder in the business. There's different programs that we want to do. We want to do a youth entrepreneurial program built like in the model of Shark Tank, where we have our youth, hopefully coming from these Black owned and operated schools that don't want to go to college. They want to go right into business. They present business plans to us, and we pick the top plan. And then the members, the 5,000 members, boom, everybody give them $20. That's $100,000 they have to start their business. But we are also partners with them in that business. Okay. So we're not just giving money away, we invest in money, in their ideas. And that's what we need to do for the older generation to bring the younger generation on. We have to invest in our ideas. The company is Comedic Science of Prosperity, and it's 4 divisions. Money, Power, Respect, which is the economic division, which will be the one that's responsible for developing the businesses. Then there's the Teach Our Own initiative. We have all these Black-owned and operated schools, but as the video showed, they're not connected. We want to be the Teach Our Own initiative, which is myself, Tahir RBG, and United Front. We want to be a conduit. We want to be the network and hub for all these schools. We want to be a resource for all these schools that are in place and to be developed as our consciousness grows, to be a financial source for them. All right. The other division is money, mind, power, music. Listen, these are the battlefields. These are the battlefields that we need to fight on. These are the battlefields. These are the weapons that are being used against us. Economics is one of the weapons being used against us. Education is a weapon being used against us. And entertainment is a weapon being used against us. Nat Turner against our competition, and we can win. So, I got 2 minutes left. Go to the website. You can click on each of the different departments of the company, and they all have mission statements to let you know what we're trying to do. The 5,000 Conscious Millionaires is the investment arm of the company, where we want to open up businesses. We want to concentrate on an industry. All right. We don't want to just come out and throw businesses all over the place. We want to concentrate on the industry. When these foreigners come here from India, they all get a Dunkin' Donuts. They all get gas stations. They all get nail salons. They all, you understand what I'm saying? They lock down an industry. That's what we need to do. We need to lock down the industries that our community needs, not wants, but needs, their necessities, and we can grow. Peace and Black Power, family. I hope y'all got something out of this today. I hope my contribution measures up to the others, because the other contributions were very, very powerful. Me and my son have a podcast, Like Father, Like Son, on YouTube. To search it is Like Father, Like Son podcast on YouTube. What I'll do is I'll put the rest of the presentation on there, talk about it, ask me any questions, because I still have a lot to go. I didn't realize I could talk that much. I haven't spoken like this in over 6 years. So, peace and Black Power.
Peace.
Peace.
This thing is supposed to end on its own, but it didn't.
It didn't? I can still keep talking?
Talking. Keep talking till it ends, I guess.
Yeah, so like I was saying, me and my son have a podcast that we do every week, Like Father, Like Son podcast on YouTube. Put Like Father, Like Son podcast, and it'll show up. You'll see this background in the video, and check us out. I put the rest of this presentation on there that'll tell you more about the company and how we want to operate, and how everybody makes money. This is a generational wealth building company. So, www.kspforever.com. The number 4ever.com.
Doc Maki. Buck front, yeah. Shot. Intro to O. Yeah. And my dude that Timbuktu the Ave. For new. renew your passion. Shun the condition and not the who, what, when, where, and you are from. At last. Put the higher